Can you handle the truth about vacations if you have a medical condition? I'm not talking about aging here. I'm talking about mobility and if you're sick. We're going to get into it, but first, this is day 9, actually, of my 30-day challenge to get my diabetes under control. And it went well today. It stayed around 115. It wasn't there all day. It started up higher, usually is in the morning. Day went well. And again, it was my 6th day of work in a row, so yay! I'll give myself a pat on the back today. Remember, give yourself positive reinforcement all the time. It'll help you. It's good for you. It's good for your psyche. And let's start Mr. Beast style. So let's start with, you want to take a Caribbean cruise. Go down to Florida, go to the islands. Can you do that with a medical condition? If you have the money. I say yes, you can. Because really, if you're taking a plane to get down there, and even if you're in a wheelchair, you can pull that off. You can bring what you need with you. Maybe you're going with somebody who can help push you if you have trouble pushing yourself, if there's a mobility problem. Even if you're not in a wheelchair, say you're using a walker, or just say, you're prone to falling, you can still do that. And on a cruise, there are elevators. So you could probably do it. Now, you may not be able to go to all the ports of call, but you can get to your cabin. You can do enough that it would probably be worth it. Again, if you can afford it. What about Disney World? That's also expensive. But is that different? I say yes, it is. And I'm not talking about going to the hotels there. I'm sure they're great in Orlando, Florida. But there's a lot of walking involved. If you're going to wait for rides, or you're going with your kids, and say, you're not that mobile, you can't just get around too easily, are there going to be enough places you can sit? And is it worth it anyway? If you're having to sit all the time on a bench, is it worth it? How much will you be able to do spending all of that money, even if you have the funds? And let's talk about that, the money issue. Because when you have a medical condition, or you're going in for spine surgery, I talked about this, that my wife is going in for spine surgery. It can take months and months for you to recover from that. It's gonna cost money if you can't go to your job. Say you don't work from home. Say you'd be out of work for 6 weeks anyway, but say even after that, say you'd be out of work for 6 months if you have a physical job, because you literally wouldn't be able to do it until maybe you get a new job that doesn't require maybe as much lifting, as much walking, somewhere you can sit all day and do your work that way. Maybe you don't have to get out of an office. So that job, it would seem like you could go back to pretty quick, but not all jobs. And would you get disability anyway? And if you don't, and say you're off for 6 months, through no fault of your own, only that you have a condition where you're not walking right, or you're not mobile. And this can be at any age. It can be in your 40s to your 90s. Maybe earlier, obviously, for people who are in wheelchairs, when they're young. It can cost a lot of money to be sick. For your other half, say you're a husband and you made a lot of money, but you have a physical job and you're not able to do it anymore. You know, how much is that going to take out of your savings anyway? And then would you really be able to go on vacation? To take those trips? And how important really is it? How important are vacations? And I want to stop here. I'm not talking about going to a park. You can see the park. It's a lovely park here. I'm talking about the vacations people talk about at work, or talk about, you know, going to the resorts, or hiking. Some people want to take hiking vacations. Well, you can only really do that if you're healthy. And if you're not, well, maybe in my case with diabetes, maybe I could have a backpack and bring enough stuff with me where I could continue to do it. But say you can't physically do it. Well, there, you're limited kind of anyway, aren't you? Maybe if you have the funds, you do something else. Or, you know, you don't even have to have a chronic medical condition. You can hurt your leg. Let me get a shot of my leg here for a second. You can hurt your leg, tear some tendons, and be out for months. And you may have a vacation planned to go hiking somewhere, but you may have to change those plans just because you can't physically do it. And that's what I'm talking about here. It's not only chronic medical conditions and having to prepare and bring stuff with you, even if you can physically do something, but sometimes things happen in life. So that can affect the vacation as well. Again, I'm going to come back to if you have the funds. Please, if you don't, vacations are not worth losing your house. Vacations are not worth not having the food on the table for the children, for God's sake. Vacations are not worth losing your heat or air conditioning over. There are much more important things in life. It's a luxury to be able to go on a vacation. It's a luxury. It's not a right. You know, I looked back at some of the vacations that we took as a family, going to George Washington's house in Virginia in Mount Vernon, right over the Potomac River. And part of George Washington's plantation has 100-foot drop. It's on kind of a mountain itself, in a sense. It's called Mount Vernon, right? For a mountain. And we went down the 100 feet and went up the 100 feet. And that was hard for me then. I'm not sure even I could do that now. Maybe I could. Maybe. But these are things to consider. Maybe you do part of the trip. Maybe you go into George Washington's house, but not down all the way and see where the slaves lived and where they worked and, you know, the other things to see in a certain area where you're on vacation. So these are things to consider. Maybe, like in our case, you go to Valley Forge, which isn't a real battlefield. It was actually a place where they stopped for the winter, really, right? George Washington and the Continental Army. And you can go on a trolley, and they take you on a guided tour. That's something you can do even if you're not very mobile. But there's an area where there were log cabins where they show you where the soldiers were. And that area is not so simple to get to. You have to walk it. And it's kind of uphill. So is that so easy to do? And as I may be able to do half a vacation, or half of the things there are to do. So see if there are elevators if you're not that mobile. And just understand that, especially if you're prone to falling, my own mom, one of the last vacations she took when she was alive was a cruise to Alaska. And you got to take a train across the country, clear across the country. You didn't have to be very mobile to do that, and that's pretty cool, going 3,000 miles on a train clear across the country to Seattle from Philadelphia, or if it was from New York. That's pretty cool. And then to go on a cruise. And she could afford to do it as a retired special ed teacher. So you only can do what you can do. So these are things to keep in mind. But remember, what's most important is still being with your family. It's not the vacations. If you're used to going to the Jersey Shore, if you live in the area I do, every 10 times a summer, to Atlantic City, to Wildwood, up to Point Pleasant, all these places you can go. The shore, the beach, the boardwalk, and there are other boardwalks. That's not so necessarily easy to do if you're not mobile. If you're not able to get around. Or even if you have somebody with you, can they push you up to where the boardwalk even is? And once you do that, how far can they push you on the boards? These are things to really consider. So changing your plans and how you deal with vacations, how you take them, and where do you decide to go, and what you decide to do, is up to you. It's up to what you can do, and if you're able to do it financially anyway, right? So that's it for today. Remember, live your best life day by day, managing your health and your health conditions to not only keep it under control, things under control, but to improve and get better, maybe so you don't even have that health condition anymore. Or that it's so like nothing that you're basically better. That's the idea, if possible. Until next time, Michael out.